On Overdrive today, we take a look at all the electric concepts from Mahindra & Mahindra showcased on Independence Day and take a drive in the newly launched Hyundai Tucson. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Sohini Datt. Now, Mahindra & Mahindra has had very interesting product launches every year on Independence Day, but this year they have gone all out by launching two new electric sub-brands, and the SUVs will be hitting a market between 2024 and 2026, and it is time for us to check out the Inglo platform that these SUVs will be based on, and also let's take a look at the concepts.
So this is the new Inglo architecture. This is their skateboard architecture that will motivate all these concept vehicles because they are all going to enter production. There are 5 of them, but we'll come to that later. Right now, first let's take a look at the skateboard architecture. It is very important. So why Inglo? In for India, Glo for global. So it's an Indian global platform. Essentially, they have developed this with Volkswagen. So Volkswagen has the MEB toolkit, the electric toolkit. So they have borrowed components from there and they have developed their own as well. So essentially what this uses right here is a lithium ferrous phosphate or a lithium iron phosphate battery pack. It's not the same as lithium ion, it's different. It has almost 4 to 5 times the life, and it's also a safer chemistry. So that is what makes it more important. And the other big claim to fame, of course, is that their skateboard architecture is actually quite lightweight. You're looking at between 2.5 to 2.7 tons for the entire vehicle, not just the skateboard, but for the entire vehicle, and that's for their biggest vehicle that they will build on this. Now this is of course a modular platform, which means that the front section remains the same, the rear section remains the same, but they can obviously alter the skateboard in between and give you different wheelbases. So there are 2 wheelbase options. One is a 2762 and other is a 2775 millimeter option. So 13 millimeter difference between the two. And in terms of the battery capability, there'll be battery capacity, there'll be about 60 to 80 kilowatt capacity options. And you're looking at a WLTP range of about 450 kilometers. This system will also support or is compatible with 175 kilowatt fast charging, which means that 0 to 80% can be achieved in about half an hour. In terms of the power outputs, well, the power outputs are actually quite interesting. Now, this is predominantly a rear wheel driven platform, but you can also have an all-wheel drive option on this. For the rear wheel drive options, you can expect between 230 to 260 PS of power output, and for the all-wheel drive, you're looking at between 340 to 400 PS of power output. With this architecture, Mahindra will also be gunning for a 5-star safety rating. And they have also made sure that they are using high strength boron steel to make sure that the battery compartment is completely isolated and is very safe in case of a collision. You also see 3 screens, 3 12.3-inch screens. So essentially, apart from these screens, now we have seen the 12.3-inch screens even in the XUV700, but apart from that, it will also receive the required computing power for these screens. So essentially, there are 3 high-speed computers that will work with the battery management system, with the infotainment, etc. They are all running dual octa-core processors. These screens are going to have 1920p resolution, and there's going to be a lot of connected tech. It's also 5G compliant, etc. Now, this is the basic architecture. Let's also take a look at the different vehicles that they will build atop this architecture. So this right behind me is the XUV E8. It's an electric vehicle, and it looks like an electrified XUV700. This particular prototype is not exactly on the Inglo platform. They have sort of put things together to, sort of give us an idea of what the performance would be like when you drive this car. If you look at the silhouette, if you look at the lines, they are all XUV700. And if you look at the lights, essentially what you get is this big LED signature that goes from one pillar to the other. This actually does turn into a turn blinker, but it's only the top section. Of course, all of these rough edges will be cleaned out before the launch. And when is the launch? December 2024. They have set the timeline. This vehicle will be launched by December 2024. Even lower down in the bumper, you will see the vertical detailing. That seems to be a signature for these new electric vehicles from Mahindra. You will see the golden Twin Peaks logo or bronze or copper Twin Peaks logo Call me colorblind, I don't know. But yeah, that logo is on the hub. This is an aerodynamic wheel and the tires are a 245/45 R20. But this is, you know, exactly what the production vehicle will sort of look like. And even at the rear, you see the XUV 700 kind of, tail lights continued here. It's not what we saw on the E9. It's not that kind of a signature. This is the same tail end as the XUV 700, so to speak. But the cabin is different. Let me quickly get into the cabin and show you what's changed there. What you do see is 3 screens. Essentially what you get is a speedometer in here. It will also tell you what gear you've selected, the range, the battery, all of that it will give you. It will give you the multi-pane layout that we saw on the XUV 700, and then there will be a third infotainment screen, and that's for the passenger. So 3 screens, 3 12.3 inch screens that you get here. Otherwise everything else looks like what we've seen in the XUV 700 again. So we are going to have a go at the XUV E8. It's a prototype, and there comes to life rather silently. The only thing making sounds are the vents. Yeah, it gets off the mark very silently, just the way you expect electric vehicle to be. The acceleration feels pretty good, and the handling manners, again, it doesn't feel too heavy. They're hinting it would be around 2.5, 2.6 tons when the Inglo platform is properly integrated with this car. But yeah, it doesn't feel too heavy. I mean, it's feeling nice and agile. In fact, it's feeling almost like the regular XUV 700. Almost feels like it's a regular petrol or diesel vehicle, and they've just sort of muted the powertrain. That's how natural it feels. And no regenerative braking. It's just got the regular brakes, and they feel perfectly natural. Don't feel too wooden or anything. So yeah, very natural feeling overall package. That's how I will put it.
We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we get you a closer look at the battery electric concepts from Mahindra and also the XUV E9 concept. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back here with us on Overdrive. Now, just before this break, we brought you details about the Inglo platform that these new electric SUVs will be based on. And now it's time for us to get you a closer look at the new XUV E9 concept and also the battery electric vehicles, the sportier range of the electric vehicles from Mahindra. Let's take a look.
What is in front of me is the Mahindra XUV E9 concept. So compared to the E8 concept that we showed you a little while back, which looks like an electrified XUV 700, this one is different. This one sits on a longer wheelbase to begin with. The E8 is a 2762mm wheelbase. This is a 2775, so that's 13mm longer on the wheelbase. It's also longer in terms of the body length. And while the E8 was a regular crossover, standard crossover, this is a coupe crossover. This also get this seamless LED strip. That's going to be the daytime running lights. This, I think, is going to double up as the turn blinker. And in the headlamp cluster, you get a projector beam up top and a 3-pot arrangement at the bottom. You will see more detailing there on the grille, more vertical detailing, and then you have this bronze scuff plate at the bottom. And then you see a similar treatment on the window line. Moving to the rear, what you see is something that might seem a bit like the Kia EV6 in terms of the design. You know, the design template might seem a little like that, especially with that seamless tail light and that panel coming out like that. It's a bit EV6 in my opinion, but I think it looks very smart, looks very hot on this particular concept. These wheels, aerodynamic wheels, completely blocked off. These are 20-inch in diameter. I'll also quickly give you a glimpse of the cabin. So it gets those 3 screens that we talked about on the Inglo platform. So those 3 screens also find their way in the XUV E9. This is the new Mahindra Be07 concept vehicles. B, that is BE, you can call it battery electric. So this is the Be07. It is a sports car on stilts, as Pratap Bose, the designer, likes to call it. and you can see it in the form, you know, very aerodynamic surfaces, very prominent lines, chiseled lines, and it all looks quite good. And what you see behind this translucent panel is radars, front-facing cameras, because this is going to have level 2 ADAS tech. What you see here is swipe to connect. I think these are going to be those discrete door handles, so just swipe and they will open. You see that at the rear as well. Tap to open the charge port. It's going to have a rear mounted charge port. Like I told you when I showed you details of the platform, it's going to have 175 kilowatt fast charging capability as well. The rear, again, something like what we saw on the E9, you get this seamless LED strip and you get this large panel in between. But this LED light, it continues all the way here to create a more unique signature compared to the E9. So like I said, very sporty looking vehicle, rolls on 21-inch wheels, and the Be07 is going to go into production by October 2025 and that's the timeline that Mahindra has set for themselves. This is the Be07 Concept. Now this slots right in between the Be05 and the Be09, and the silhouette clearly suggests that this is going to be a 5-seater crossover SUV that's for the family. Again, we see a different front end compared to the Be05 and the Be09. The LED signature almost remains the same, but the treatment given to the center panel is very different. It's not as upright, not as in your face as the Be09, and not as exaggerated or not as sporty as the Be05. It's going to be that typical Mahindra DNA where it will have all-wheel drive. It will be able to take you to places that look difficult for other soft-roaders, and it will have, again, the range-topping specs that this platform has to offer. So you're looking at between 360 to 400 PS of power. You're looking at the 80 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and the charging port for which is going to be right here, right in the front. And unlike the Be09, which had a black panel, this is body colored right here. So at the rear, you have a spoiler, roof spoiler, that's very similar to what we saw on the Be05. You also have a similar mesh detailing, and then on top you will see a full glass roof and roof rails as well. But all in all, I think this is a very good looking vehicle. I think this looks the most balanced. This will find the most appeal in terms of the three B concepts, because this is going to be the family vehicle. This is the largest concept right now on the B sub-brand from Mahindra, and this is the Be09. So what Mahindra is envisioning this as is a Grand Tourer, a GT, and it's essentially what we saw on the Be05. So you get those big 21-inch wheels and you get a similar lighting signature. It's just got a more imposing front end compared to the Be05. I think the dimensions are going to be slightly different as well. You know, even the tech shield bit, we saw it in translucent panels there, and you get a body colored panel. You get the B logo sitting there quite prominently. Active aero, so you know these are going to be flaps that open, so that's why the active aero. And again, the radar tech is going to be behind this little translucent panels. That aero bridge continues to be there even on the Be09. You also get the similar wing cameras, but here instead of the Be05's 2 screens, you get the full 3-screen setup, and it's going to have the big digital speedometer, rev counter, etc. There's also going to be the infotainment in between, and there's going to be one infotainment for the passenger seat. And I'm also told that the third infotainment, that the one for the passenger, is also going to be compatible with video input from a laptop, from a gaming console, etc. So you know they can entertain themselves, they can take Zoom calls if required, and it's angled in such a way that it ideally won't disturb the driver. And again, all that detailing continues here in the bumper as well. So that is the Be09. This is the top of the line, of course. So this is, now that 9 doesn't stand for a 9-seater or anything, it is going to be a 5-seater, and essentially it's going to run an 80 kilowatt hour battery pack. You're looking at a 450 odd WLTP driving range. This is going to be the top of the line in terms of the tech specs. So it's going to have all-wheel drive, it's going to have close to 400 horsepower, and it's going to go up on spec against cars like the e-tron and the e-tron Sportback. It's going to be a feature-rich value for money alternative that you will get from Mahindra.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to these electric breed of SUVs from Mahindra. I'm sure you are as well. We'll take a very quick break here on the show. But coming up on the other side, we tell you how the new 2022 Hyundai Tucson feels like to drive on the road. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, here with us on Overdrive. The Hyundai Tucson has been around for nearly 2 decades, but it has not managed to garner that much success. But the 2022 version of the Tucson now comes with ADAS features. So should you go out and buy one? Bert has the answer.
The entry premium SUV segment. Now that's a segment that's not very crowded. You've got the Compass and the Citroen weighing for space. Now you've got a new entrant into that segment. This is the Hyundai Tucson. Now the Tucson nameplate is something you'd probably be familiar with because this started off life in India way back in 2004 when the first generation came in. And we've seen 3 generations of the Tucson in India coming down to this, the 4th generation. Apart from its good looks though, how is it to drive? Well, that's what I'm here in Bengaluru around the Nandi Hills to see what the Tucson feels like, well, when you're behind the steering wheel. So, shall we get on with it then? This new SUV has been developed on Hyundai's 3rd generation compact or rather N3 platform. Now, what this platform essentially does is it enhances safety, space, comfort, drivability and a host of other features that you would want in an SUV of this order. What makes the Tucson unique in this segment is the fact that it's the only one to offer level 2 advanced driver assistance systems in addition to an all-wheel drive powertrain, and of course you get a choice of both petrol and diesel engines. Now the Tucson that I'm driving, well, this comes with the 2-liter common rail direct injection diesel, and this makes about 186 PS of max power with 416 Newton meters of max torque, which is more than adequate for any driving duties. The petrol, on the other hand, well, that's got about 156 PS of max power with 192 Newton meters of max torque, which may not sound like much, but it's more than enough. The Hyundai Tucson will be offered with just 2 transmission options. There is an 8-speed automatic which is mated to the diesel engine, and there's the 6-speed automatic which is combined with the petrol. Previous generations of the Tucson, from what I recollect, had slightly softer suspension settings, so there was a fair amount of front-end dive, body roll that you'd sense in those SUVs, but a lot of those have been ironed out in the new Tucson. You get a host of safety features on board like 6 airbags, you've got hill descent control, and of course a crash structure that is probably one of the best you can get in this segment. But the most important aspect is the advanced driver assistance system. And this adds in a host of features to ensure your driving is as safe as it can be. The Tucson also offers you a host of driving modes, roughly around 7 of them. And this has to do with both on-road driving as well as off-road driving. Now on on-road driving, you can press a button and select between eco, normal, sport or smart. And then there are the terrain modes where you can select between snow, mud or sand conditions to drive on. The Tucson is about 1.8 meters wide, and on a trail this narrow, that width can get quite tricky. But here's where the cameras effectively come into play and allow you to see where you're going. I'm trying hard to avoid the field that I'm driving right next to. I don't want to kill the crops. But at the same time, I'm trying very hard not to go overboard and slide down that drop. And it's got about 195 mm of ground clearance. That may sound like it's a lot, But do keep in mind that it's also got reasonably long overhangs. So approach and departure angles can be a little tricky. Now here's what I'm trying to do. There's a severe lip in there. Wow, I'm trying not to scrape the underbelly. That means moving through this slowly. Ouch! I did hear a bit of it scrape. But we came away clean. Well, the Tucson makes a very compelling case for itself. If you are looking for a car, did I forget to mention its striking good looks? You're looking for a great cabin space with great interiors. You're looking for, well, good engines, both diesel and petrol, which are refined, frugal, and of course powerful and torquey as well. You're looking for something that offers you, well, all-wheel drive powertrain. You're looking for something that offers you the advanced driver assistance systems and a ton of features which Hyundai traditionally puts into all of its vehicles. Well, the Tucson probably ticks all those boxes for you.
Well, we've also exclusively driven the Hyundai Creta, the one that will be coming to India pretty shortly. Don't forget to check that story out on our YouTube channel. That's it then from us on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter as well as YouTube, and you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.